Hey everyone, it's Michael here from GoodEreader.com. Today we're going to review the Tolino Page 2. This device is 6 inches. It's 212 ppi. The screen is not flush with the bezel, but it is using e-Encarta HD. It has a front light, but not a color temperature system. There's 8 gigs of internal storage, 512 MB of RAM, and a 1 gigahertz Freescale / NXP processor. Let's take a little bit of a look about this device here. So as you can see on the bottom, there's the power button and it has like a little status indicator light here. There is the USB port. This is where you plug it in your computer to charge it via the accompanied cable, and you would also transfer and sideload ebooks. There's not really much going on else with this device. It does have a embossed Tolino logo on the back, and it is kind of plastic. It's not the easiest to grip. Like, it's very there's no grip, so that's one thing to bear in mind. Before we take a look at the UI, I want to give you a sense on how you actually associate this device with a specific bookstore. When you crank it out of the box for the first time and set up your Wi-Fi, you get to select your country. So selected countries: Belgium, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Switzerland, and Austria. So if you live in one of those countries, you would basically say, okay, let's say for Italy. These are the bookstores that you can select to do business with. So if you are living in Italy and you do business with, say, IndieBook, you can select that and it'll import all of the books that you have purchased. Ditto with, say, if you live in Germany, you can kind of select a ton of different retailers here. So Thalia is pretty well one of the biggest bookstores. It's not just in Germany, but other markets as well. So you can kind of select that and go through the sign-up process. Now you can see that once I associated the device with Thalia, you actually can see now the Thalia bookstore, and you can kind of scroll and check out titles. You see now that we've selected Thalia, so the Thalia books are here. You can kind of scroll and check out some of the recommendations that they offer. Now, here's the home screen. It's only 6 inches, so it only provides so much real estate. It's not like the 7 inches of the Vision 5 or the 8 inches of the Epos 2. This is the Tolino entry-level e-reader, so you don't have a lot of features. It's not waterproof, dustproof, or anything like that. It's a basement e-reader that is around 99 euros. So it only shows 3 books that you have on your device. The default book is the manual, and then you can see here a PDF that we've sideloaded and an ebook that we sideloaded. With the UI, to my books will take you to your bookshelf. Here is this little light thing here will give you options that control the luminosity of the screen. So you can search for the device. Wi-Fi and battery symbol are here. And there's also a little light symbol there. If you press there anywhere on the e-reader, automatically set up the light. A little clock here on the top left. And then there is the menu system. The settings menu is where you're going to be during the initial setup process and setting up your reading configurations. The first one's a Thalia shop, so you can log in and log out. There's an internet browser, a settings menu, my account, so you can actually log into one, not just one bookstore, but many different ones, and the information and help. Information and help is interesting because it shows you how much battery life is remaining, percentages, how much memory you have available total, so 5.8 gigs, about Tolino, introduction, manual, and customer service. So if you're stuck using the device, you can get customer service right on the e-reader to help you. There's also a firmware update button there that you can search for firmware updates. This e-reader does not have physical page turn buttons, so you will have to rely on the touch screen. One of the great things about this is that despite the fact that this is an entry-level e-reader, page turn response time is pretty good. You can see that I'm just clicking and there's really no lag or delay and things like, taking too long to load or for resolution and stuff like that. You tap the center of the screen and you get a number of UI elements. shows you here at the bottom of the screen how much is remaining in the chapter. You also can set up a little button here which will actually change the orientation. You can actually rotate it from landscape to portrait mode. And interesting enough, this feature isn't in on any of the modern Tolino e-readers. So the Vision 5, the Epos 2, that is not in it, which I find is actually kind of strange, because one of the best features to change the orientation of an e-reader is not in their more expensive models. You can set up your notes and view them here. You can click this button here and go to your table of contents. Quickly scroll from where you want to actually go. And this is your text display. Text display is kind of cool. It kind of gives you a number of fonts here. Now, if you didn't know, all Tolino e-readers run Android, but it's a heavily skinned version of Android. So you would actually never know that it is running Android. But you do notice a very Android-y font, Droid Serif. You actually have a number of them here. You can select the publisher's font and the publisher's standard. What's the difference? Well, the publisher's font uses the font that is associated with the book. And the publisher standard takes into account line spacing, text alignment, and margins, although you can configure that if you want. You can actually change how you want to increase the size of the font. So this is great for people who have like vision disorders or just want bigger fonts and stuff like that. So it dynamically changes, so you can kind of get a sense on what that's all about. Now, you can't just tap out and close this. You actually have to close the X button. Now, there's a few other things to the Z Reader. You can click like long press on a word. You could highlight, write a note, look up, or translate. So you can do a highlight. Just click on a highlight. Pretty simple. You long press like on multiple words and then say, hey, I want to write a note. So this is the screen for taking notes. You can see that standard QWERTY screen, a row of numerical things at the top, 1 to 0, and let's see how responsive the screen is. Not too bad. So you see here on the library menu the aforementioned notes. So you can view that, but if you don't actually want those notes, you can actually delete them. So you can kind of delete books, select this, and delete it. So this is a great way that you can delete books that you no longer want on your device. And, if you finished books, you can kind of just mark them as finished too. Now, this in PDF just loaded instantly, which is pretty good. Like the whole PDF just like loaded fast. Turning pages, it's not so fast, but keep in mind, this is a heavily image PDF. It's basically Beckett Baseball Guide, January 2020, so 2020, and you can see that it's just a lot of imagery here. And it looks pretty good. I can't really complain, despite the fact it's on a 300 ppi screen. On images like this, you tend to notice that, but on ebooks and things like that, you really don't. You can click here, tap in the center of the screen, and you get new options that you wouldn't see in ebooks. Not only can you change the rotation, which we saw, you can do text reflow, you can turn off the light, but you can also zoom. So you can see the delay on the zoom. Now, one of the interesting things is once you find a zoom that you like, you can actually turn the page, and your zoom level, whatever you established with, is maintained to the next page. Not a lot of e-readers do this. So when you turn a page, it basically shows you the rest of the image that's not on it. So if you're looking at comics, manga, that's like a frame by frame, this is where it's most useful. This is the frontlit display on the page too. As you can see that we have illumination on and it's cranked up to the max. So it does have like a slider bar here that you can kind of configure the brightness that's ideal for you. 60% point I find is a really nice match. But let's say, hey, This is bright, but it's not really bright. What can I do? Well, there's an extended brightness feature. And you can see the brightness increased by like a 40%. So what this does is it amps up the white LEDs, but it does sacrifice battery. So if you have this on all the time, instead of a battery lasting you like 4 weeks, it may only last like 2. The Page 2 makes a lot of sense if you live in Germany or the surrounding areas. You know, we kind of mentioned the countries that support a dedicated ebook store. This is where you would get the most value out of the Tolino, because you can simply just do business with whoever you want. Alternatively, if you live outside of, you know, the EU and you want to use this in Japan, South America, Canada, or the United States, luckily it does have Adobe Digital Edition, so you can sideload in your Kobo books, your Barnes & Noble books. You can't sideload in Kindle books, but you can do so from almost every other bookstore, which makes it somewhat useful. And Tolino is a brand that's been around for 8 or 9 years, so they do have some longevity. This is basically a Kobo device, but it's been rebranded a Tolino device. I recommend it. The glow light is pretty good. Page turns for ebooks are pretty fast. If you're just using it as a casual ebook reader, then I really recommend it.